Maine looks quiet on the surface. Forests stretch for miles. Rivers move slowly toward the sea. The coastline feels calm and timeless, but beneath that calm landscape are stories that go back thousands of years. Stone tools, rock carvings, buried camps, and hidden artifacts hint at lives we only partly understand. Ancient Maine is not loud or dramatic. Its mysteries are subtle, quiet, and still waiting to be fully uncovered. Willard Brook Quarry Lithic Site. Deep in the woods of western Maine, not far from the New Hampshire border, there is a quiet place where stone tells a very old story. The Willard Brook Quarry does not look dramatic at first. It is forest, sloping ground, scattered rock. But beneath your feet is evidence of some of the earliest people to move through this region after the last ice age. This site is known as a lithic quarry. That simply means it was a place where people collected and worked stone to make tools. Thousands of stone flakes have been found here. Broken pieces, shards, chips. To most people, they might look like nothing, but to archaeologists, they are clues. The stone at Willard Brook is high quality for toolmaking. Early people needed sharp edges for hunting, cutting meat, scraping hides, and shaping wood. They searched carefully for the right kind of rock. When they found a good source, they returned to it again and again. What makes this place important is its age. Many experts believe the quarry was used by Paleo-Indian groups around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. That was a time when the glaciers had only recently retreated from Maine. The landscape would have looked very different, colder, more open, fewer trees. Large animals like caribou moved across the land. These early people were highly mobile. They traveled long distances. They followed herds. They adapted to changing climates. When they reached this area and found workable stone, it became part of their survival network. One of the mysteries here is how exactly the stone was extracted. Some evidence suggests people removed pieces directly from exposed bedrock. Other clues show that they gathered loose stone already broken by natural forces. It may have been a mix of both. The ground at Willard Brook is covered in flakes. This tells us that tool shaping happened right there. Stone tools are not made in one hit. It takes skill. You strike the stone at the right angle. A flake pops off, then another, and another. Slowly the shape forms. If you make a mistake, the piece can shatter. So when archaeologists see thousands of flakes, they see a workshop, a place where people sat, probably in small groups, shaping points and blades. Some of the tools found here are called fluted points. These are spear points with a long channel flake removed from the base. They are often linked to early big game hunters. Finding flakes that match this style connects the site to a much larger story across North America. But here is the mystery. Was Willard Brook only a quarry, or was it also a camp? There is debate about that. Some researchers think people came here mainly to collect stone and then left. Others believe they may have stayed for short periods, maybe setting up temporary camps while working the material. Another question is how far the stone traveled. By comparing stone types from other sites, archaeologists can sometimes trace where material came from. If stone from Willard Brook appears far away, that would show long trade routes or long travel paths. So far, evidence suggests that early people in this region covered wide areas. Maine was not isolated. It was part of a bigger pattern of movement after the Ice Age. When you walk through the area today, it does not feel ancient. It feels peaceful. Trees stand tall. Leaves cover the ground. In some seasons, it can be hard to even notice the flakes unless you know what to look for. That quiet setting can make it hard to imagine what it once was. Picture a colder landscape. Picture small bands of people carrying spears. Picture the sharp sound of stone striking stone. One thing that stands out about this site is how simple it is. There are no walls, no carvings, no large structures, just stone debris, and yet that debris tells a huge story. There is also the mystery of why this exact spot became important. Was the stone uniquely strong, easier to shape, or was it simply the best option in that region? Stone quality matters. Early toolmakers understood their materials deeply. They knew which rock would split cleanly and which would crumble. The fact that Willard Brook was used repeatedly shows it met their needs. Over time, natural forces have changed the area. Erosion has moved soil, trees have grown and fallen, some flakes may be buried deeper than before, others may have been carried away by water. The positives today are that the site has been studied and recognized as important. It is part of Maine's early human story. Awareness helps protect it. Archaeologists have documented the material carefully. The negatives are similar to many outdoor sites. It is exposed to nature. Freeze and thaw cycles can shift the ground. Heavy rains can move artifacts. There is also the risk of collectors removing pieces. Even picking up a single flake takes away part of the context. Another challenge is visibility. Because it looks like normal forest, some people may not realize they are standing in a significant location. Without clear markers or supervision, protection depends heavily on public respect. In my opinion, Willard Brook Quarry is powerful because of its simplicity. It does not try to impress. It does not need to. It represents survival, skill, movement across a young landscape just emerging from ice. I do not see it as a mysterious lost civilization. I see it as proof of human adaptability. People came into a cold, changing land and figured out how to live. At the same time, there is still mystery in the details. We do not know the names of the people who shaped those stones. We do not know their language. We do not know their personal stories. We only have the marks left behind. Right now, the site remains a quiet forested area. It is not heavily developed. It benefits from being somewhat low profile, which reduces tourist pressure. But that also means it relies on ongoing awareness and respect to remain intact. The present situation is balanced. It is known to researchers, it has historical value, yet it remains open to natural wear and possible disturbance. No massive fences, no large visitor center, just land and stone. And maybe that fits the story. A place where early people once sat shaping tools, still sits quietly today. The flakes remain scattered, holding memory and sharp edges. The forest has grown around it, but the past is still there underfoot, waiting for careful eyes to notice. Dugout canoe at Cape Porpoise. Along the southern coast of Maine, near the quiet harbor of Cape Porpoise, something unexpected came out of the mud. It was not gold, not a shipwreck, not a colonial relic. It was older than that, much older. It was a dugout canoe. The canoe was discovered buried in thick mud near the shoreline. At first glance, it did not look dramatic. Dark wood, waterlogged, worn by time. But once experts examined it, they realized it was one of the oldest known watercraft ever found in Maine. A dugout canoe is made from a single tree trunk. The maker burns and carves out the inside until the log becomes hollow and shaped for travel. It sounds simple, but it takes skill. The wood must be strong enough to float and stable enough to carry people and supplies. This canoe is believed to have been made by Native American people centuries ago, long before European ships appeared along this coast. Radiocarbon dating placed it roughly around 1,000 years old, possibly even older. That means someone shaped that tree long before Maine became what we know today. The mystery is not just its age, it is the story behind it. Why was it buried in mud? Some believe it may have sunk during use and became trapped in sediment. Over time, layers of mud preserved it. In many places, wood would rot away, but in oxygen-poor mud, decay slows down. That is likely what saved this canoe. Another question is who used it. The southern Maine coast was home to native communities who depended heavily on water travel. Canoes were essential. They were not luxury items. They were tools of daily life, used for fishing, travel between villages, trade, and movement along rivers and bays. The design of this canoe gives clues. It is narrow and shaped for coastal waters. Not a massive ocean vessel, but steady enough for sheltered bays and short open crossings. Cape Porpoise sits near protected waters, making it a practical place for travel and fishing. When archaeologists carefully removed the canoe, it was fragile. After centuries underwater, wood becomes soft once exposed to air. Conservation was needed to keep it from cracking and shrinking. The process of preserving ancient wood is slow and delicate. That part of the story often gets overlooked. Finding something is one thing, saving it is another. There is also the larger mystery of how many more are still hidden. Coastlines shift, sea levels rise, mud builds up. It is very possible that other ancient watercraft lie buried along Maine's shores. Another interesting question is how skilled the maker was. Shaping a dugout canoe without metal tools requires patience and experience. Fire is controlled carefully to burn away wood without destroying it. Then stone tools smooth and refine the shape. When you think about that, it becomes impressive. No machines, no power tools, just knowledge passed down through generations. Standing at Cape Porpoise today, it feels peaceful. Lobster boats move through the harbor, seagulls circle overhead, tourists walk along the docks in summer. It looks like a typical coastal Maine town, but beneath that calm surface lies deep history. The positive side today is that the canoe was recognized quickly as important. It was studied properly and preserved instead of being lost or discarded. It adds real physical evidence to the story of native maritime life in Maine. The negative side is that sites like this are vulnerable. Coastal erosion, storms, and rising sea levels can both reveal and destroy ancient remains. Climate change increases the risk. What is hidden today may be exposed tomorrow, and not always in a controlled way. There is also the reality that many coastal discoveries happen by accident. Construction, dredging, or natural shifts uncover them. That means some artifacts may be damaged before experts even know they exist. In my opinion, the Cape Porpoise canoe is powerful because it feels personal. Unlike stone flakes or carvings, this was something someone built and used directly. You can imagine a person sitting inside it, paddling across quiet water. It makes the past feel closer. I do not see it as a mystery in a dramatic sense. We know native people lived here. We know they used canoes. But finding an actual preserved example connects the story in a physical way. At the same time, there is mystery in the details. Who carved it? Was it used daily or for special journeys? Did it sink in a storm? Was it left intentionally? We will probably never know those answers. Right now, Cape Porpoise is still an active working harbor mixed with tourism. The original discovery site remains part of a changing coastal environment. Tides still move in and out. Mud still shifts. Nature continues its slow work. The canoe itself has been preserved and studied, which is a positive outcome. It is protected from further decay. But the environment that held it for centuries is not frozen in time. It keeps changing. So the present situation is a mix of success and uncertainty. One ancient canoe has been saved and documented, but the coastline remains fragile. More may be hidden, and more may be at risk. When I think about this site, I feel respect more than mystery. Respect for the skill of the builder, respect for the land and water that preserved it, and respect for how much history lies quietly beneath our feet. Cape Porpoise today looks modern and alive with fishing boats and summer visitors, yet its waters once carried hand-carved wooden canoes shaped by fire and stone. The harbor continues to thrive, but the ancient layer beneath it reminds us that long before engines and docks, people were already moving through these waters with knowledge, balance, and purpose. Hodgdon Site Rock Art. The Hodgdon Site sits quietly along the Kennebec River in Emden, Maine. If you did not know it was there, you could easily walk past it. There are no towering ruins, no stone walls, no dramatic cliffs, just exposed bedrock near the river's edge. But carved into that stone are images that have lasted for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. These carvings are called petroglyphs. They were made by pecking into the rock with harder stones. When you look closely, you can see small marks where the stone was chipped away bit by bit. It must have taken patience, time, intention. Most researchers believe the carvings were made by Native American people, likely ancestors of today's Wabanaki tribes. The Kennebec River was a major travel route, long before roads or bridges existed. People moved along this river by canoe. They fished here, camped here, gathered food along its banks. The river was not just water, it was a highway, a lifeline. The images at Hodgdon include human figures, animals, and shapes that are harder to explain. Some figures look like people with raised arms. Others seem to show animals, possibly moose or deer. There are lines, curves, and patterns that do not clearly match any single object. And that is where the mystery begins. What did these images mean? Were they spiritual symbols, messages, records of events, or something more personal, like storytelling carved into stone? One of the most talked about carvings appears to show a figure with a square shape near it. Some people once suggested it could represent a European-style house. That idea caused debate because if true, it might mean the carving was made after Europeans arrived. But others argue the shape could simply be abstract or represent something completely different. Without written records, we are left with guesses, and that is the honest truth about many ancient sites. We see the marks, we study the stone, but we do not fully know the thoughts behind them. Another mystery is the age of the carvings. Dating rock art is not easy. There is no easy way to place a number on it unless there are tools or organic materials nearby that can be tested. Some experts believe the carvings may date back several hundred years. Others think some could be much older. The style of certain figures looks similar to other petroglyphs found in Maine and parts of eastern Canada. Over time, water levels in the river have changed. Flooding may have covered the carvings at certain points. Ice in winter would have pressed against the stone. Yet the images survived. That alone is impressive. When you stand there today, the carvings do not jump out at you. They are worn, faded. You have to look carefully. Light matters. If the sun hits at the right angle, the lines become clearer. If the stone is wet, some shapes stand out more. Other times they almost disappear. There is something powerful about that. The images feel hidden but not lost. Some locals grew up knowing about the site. For years it was not widely protected. That led to damage. Graffiti appeared. Modern carvings were scratched into the rock. People walked across the surface without realizing what they were stepping on. That is one of the sad parts of the story. Rock art is fragile. Once damaged, it cannot truly be restored. In recent decades, there has been more awareness. Preservation groups and state officials have worked to protect the site. There is more respect now. Still, it is not a heavily guarded place. It remains somewhat exposed to nature and human impact. Another question is why this exact spot was chosen. The Kennebec River is long. Why carve here? It could have been a gathering place. Maybe certain seasons brought people together. Maybe it was a spiritual location where ceremonies were held. Rivers often hold deep meaning in native cultures. Water connects worlds. It carries life. There is also the idea that petroglyphs were markers, signs for travelers, messages left for others moving along the river. Not like modern signs, but symbols that had shared meaning within the culture. When I look at images from the Hodgdon Site, I do not see something random. I see intention, the spacing of figures, the way some shapes seem grouped together. It feels planned, but I also try to stay careful. It is easy to project our modern ideas onto ancient art. We want answers. We want dramatic stories. Vikings, lost civilizations, secret codes. The truth is usually quieter. It was likely native people marking their world in a meaningful way. That alone is powerful enough. One important thing to remember is that these carvings were not made for us. They were made for the people living at that time. The meaning may have been obvious to them. To us, it is a puzzle. There is something humbling about that. Standing at the site today, you feel the quiet. The river still moves steadily. Trees line the banks. In summer, insects buzz. In fall, leaves drift across the rock. It does not feel like a tourist attraction. It feels like a place that has simply existed for a very long time. The positives today are that the site is recognized as important. There is more education around native history in Maine. People are learning that the land holds deep stories long before colonial times. That awareness helps protect places like this. The negatives are just as real. Natural erosion continues. Freeze and thaw cycles slowly wear the carvings down. Flooding can damage surfaces, and even with better awareness, vandalism is always a risk. Remote sites are hard to monitor. Another challenge is that not everyone understands the cultural value. To some, it may look like random scratches in stone. Without context, it is easy to overlook. In my opinion, the Hodgdon Site is not dramatic in a Hollywood sense. It is not a giant stone circle or a towering ruin, but that is what makes it meaningful. It represents everyday people from long ago, people who lived, traveled, and believed along this river. I do not think we need to turn it into something mysterious beyond reason. The real mystery is human connection across time. The fact that someone stood there centuries ago, tapped stone against stone, and left a mark that we can still see, that feels enough. At the same time, I understand why it draws curiosity. When meaning is unclear, imagination fills the space. That is natural, but I prefer a grounded view. Respect the unknown without inventing stories. Right now, the site remains relatively quiet. It is not heavily developed. Access can depend on conditions and water levels. Some days the carvings are easier to see than others. Preservation efforts continue, but nature is always at work, so the present situation is mixed. The site survives, it is recognized, but it remains vulnerable. Time is slowly softening the lines carved long ago, and maybe that is part of the story too. The Hodgdon Site is not just about what was carved. It is about endurance, about memory held in stone, about how much we can know and how much we must accept that we cannot. Today, the river still flows past those images. Visitors who know where to look can still see them, but they are fading. Protection has improved, yet erosion and past damage are visible. It stands as both a preserved piece of history and a fragile reminder that ancient stories need care if they are to last.